Hello! Today I'm going to do a video of some of the books that I've read recently. I'm not sure actually when I last did one of these. There have been quite a lot since then, so I'm going to skip over a few, I think, and just launch into it from the books I've read since kind of mid to late May through to the end of June. So I'm going to start with Dash and Lily's Book of Dares. I'd had this on my shelf for a little while. I got it when one of my friends was putting it out and I thought it sounded interesting. A girl called Lily leaves a notebook in her favourite bookshop in New York, and it has lists of tasks for someone who finds it to do, and the person who finds it is a boy called Dash, and the tasks take him all around the bookshop. He writes something else in the notebook and leaves it for Lily. They pass the notebook back and forth, hiding it in different places around to New York and leaving each other clues as to where it is now with updates about them. They ask each other questions and eventually they do meet up. It's a really cute story. It is set at Christmas time, which I didn't realise, so it was a bit out of place reading it on a hot sunny day in May, but it was a really cute book, so I've held on to it for now and I might reread it come Christmas time. Next book that I read was Summer at the Comfort Food Cafe. I will have to look that up and see who wrote it because I can't remember just now. This was a really cute story. I really liked the other book that I'd read in this series, it was actually set later than this one. It's about a woman who, her husband died, and she has her two teenage kids and just struggling with life in general. So she takes up a job in Devon, I think, that's on the beach, working in a cafe, and takes her whole family down there to live there for the summer. It's a really sweet story. She ends up meeting someone. It's very cute and was a nice few hours reading. Next book I read was My Soul to Take by Rachel Vincent. This is the first book in her Soul Screamers series. I do have several of the others in that series lined up to go as well. I got them all at once. This is a young adult novel about a girl who discovers that she is a banshee. Most of the first book was just set up for this and kind of gets the revelations that she's a banshee and that it's an inherited thing, so at least one of her parents was a banshee. It was a good book. It was quite fun. I'd read some of Rachel Vincent's work for adults before and liked it, so I will be reading the next one in the series at least, but possibly not for a little while. I've read a lot of YA books recently and I just need a bit of a breather from that. I then read Inheritance by Tilly Bagshaw. This one, I'd read another of Tilly Bagshaw's books and had it just for a kind of a break from all my other reading to read something light, a bit funny, and unfortunately this one did not live up to my expectations from the other one. The characters were annoying. Some of them do some fairly irredeemable things and she then tries to redeem them at the end of the book, and I just wasn't having any of that. That's how people end up in super unhealthy relationships, and I don't think it was a good book at all. I then read Blackwing by Ed McDonald. This is a fantasy novel. I have just posted a review of this on my blog. I will leave a link to that in the description box. Look at these lovely black sprayed edges. Isn't that cool? This is a fantasy novel. It is published by Gallant and comes out on the 20th of July. Dark, gritty fantasy. Really, really good. I might do more of a detailed review of this one on BookTube, but in the meantime, read my review where I went into more detail. It's set in a fantasy world. There's this kind of frontier next to a place called The Misery, which is kind of always cloudy, this stretch of barren earth where magical things happen. People disappear and get turned into magical creatures, and which aren't very nice creatures. They also get attacked by these creatures and stuff, but the misery is there as a kind of barrier between the humans and these kind of mythical bad guys that are on the other side. I don't know how to describe it better, but the misery is the barrier between them, and now it looks like people are finding a way to get across that, and Captain Galharrow must figure out why all is not as it should, and also try and stop the bad guys coming through. So that was a really, really good fantasy novel. The next one I read was Silver Silence by Nalini Singh. I talked about this a bit in my book haul video. This is the new book in her side-changing world, but it's kind of onto a new story arc. So this is now called the Age of Trinity series, or a side-changeling Trinity novel, it says. This moves focus from the San Francisco Bay Area, where her previous side-changeling books were, and shifts over to Russia, where there is a bear pack living close to Moscow, and I think the bears are going to be the focus of this new series. I really loved what we saw of them in this book, and I can't wait to read more about them in the future books. I also really liked the hero and heroine in this book. I then read The Iron King by Julia Kagawa. This is the first book in her Iron Fae series. It's another young adult novel. It uses some Celtic fairy stories as its kind of basis, but the main character has grown up in America. When her baby brother is swapped for a changeling, she discovers that one of her childhood friends has actually been a fae creature who's been watching over her. And he takes her to the Fae lands where she can hopefully try and find her brother. She then discovers that one of her parents was Fae and she is actually a princess. Adventure ensues and she does eventually find her brother. Again, this is the first in the series, and I do have more books in the series. I will probably read another one, but there's a lot of other things to get to first before I do that. The next book I finished was Unrivaled by Ailsa. This was one of the books I wanted to read before I moved house. Didn't quite manage that, but I've read it now. The one thing about this that frustrated me was I didn't realise that it was part of a series and that the mystery wouldn't be wrapped up in this book. This book follows 4 kids who are 18. They all get jobs for various reasons, working as promoters over the summer for a series of nightclubs in LA run by a guy who's known to be quite ruthless. There's going to be a cash prize at the end, and for various reasons they're all competing for this. They have to lure celebrities into the clubs in various ways and get more points for the different celebrities that they get. And then one of those celebrities disappears. I liked the book. It was quite fast-paced, but I'm very frustrated that I didn't get to find out what was going on in this book. I kind of want to read the next one, but I don't know if I want it badly enough to pay for another book. I didn't love it enough for that. The next book I finished reading was an anthology called You Will Grow Into Them by Malcolm Devlin. Again, I talked about this one in my book haul post. Didn't really like it, to be honest. It was lots of short stories, and most of them I felt a bit unfulfilled at the end. I didn't feel like I got enough of a conclusion to the stories. They just left you a bit too much like, oh, draw your own conclusions here of what was going on or what was really happening. And for me, I wanted concrete answers. I then read The Adamantine Palace by Stephen Diaz. This is a book about dragons. I absolutely loved this one. It's like Dragon Riders of Pern crossed with Game of Thrones. There is a lot of political manoeuvring in this, and there's loads of stories about the dragons. There's a prince who wants to be more than a prince and has set all these schemes in motion. Meanwhile, other people have schemes of their own for their political ambitions. And into all of this, you have a dragon that has disappeared, which means that it can start to think for itself again. And a dragon thinking for itself is a lot stronger than the people around it and could potentially wipe out an awful lot of people. It was a really, really good book, and I'm definitely going to be looking for the sequel to this one very soon. Another book which I finished reading recently was Queen of Fire by Anthony Ryan. This is the 3rd book in the Raven Shadow trilogy. I really enjoyed this series, even if it did take me a little while to get through this one. It's epic fantasy, lots of journeys involved, lots of rising and falling of kingdoms, and some magic in there. I really enjoyed it. I then read The First 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North. I'd had this on my shelf for a while. It was in the Radio 2 book club a couple of years ago, and my dad really recommended it to me as well. Harry August lives his life through quite happily, dies, and then wakes up back as a baby in where he started off again. He then discovers that he is one of a number of people who lives their lives in loops. And at the end of his 11th life, a girl who obviously is from the future, who's one of these people, comes back to him and gives him a message that the world is ending faster and faster. And they don't know why in the future, but she has come to pass the message to him. he realises that it's something in his own time and then tries to stop it. It was a really, really good book. I might do a review of this one separately. I'm definitely going to write a review up. It was really enjoyable and yeah, very twisty-turny, very, very interesting, thoughtful book. And those are all the books that I've read over kind of end of May and into June. My next wrap-up video will hopefully be a bit shorter because I'll just do all of the July books. I hope you have a good day and I will talk to you soon. Bye!